Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing CyberBrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With CyberBrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At CyberBrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you.
Here create base data, the dataset. I think we covered the file as FTP, as is the custom report as. In the custom report we went, not the process but what are the criteria for it. We will discuss the process as going ahead. We discussed that when we create a base dataset from a file, there are certain limitations and there are certain ways to do it. For FTP there are certain criteria, that limitations of 1 GB compressed and 10 GB uncompressed, that time out for uploading the file is YFTP for less than 6 hours. Otherwise it will time out. Apart from it, we also have custom report by which we can create a base dataset, and we saw that. What are the criteria for it? For the real-time scenarios we saw by uploading a file, that when we create a base dataset, let me open the tenant and show you that when we open this, we create a base dataset using a file. What are the processes of? Paste the test set and load. I think we created this one. I guess, yes, this is the base dataset, which we created on day before yesterday. Third session. Try to give the name. That's what say, because sometimes the network issues there. I know it was, I think, since I use the application for a Zoom, I don't think it crashes as much as when I was using the browser, but thanks for asking. Yes, the application is very stable, in that comes. We created a base data set with the help of a file. In that we saw that when we go to this create, and here there are 3 options available for the basic asset as discussed in the presentation. As we did from a file, when you click on file, it asks us first of all to upload the file, and then we create the base data set, we create the name and we upload a file and the end, and this is the way how it works, and we created this base data set. If we go to the view option, this is the view option in which you will be able to see the BDS worker tree. This is a summarized view and this is a detailed view of it, by which the name we have uploaded this file. If we edit the transformation, we see something different on the left hand side. The only difference is that this detailed tab will get replaced by this tab when we do an edit transformation. Let me show you that when we do this and I click on edit transformation, I will get something this open up. Here I can also minimize it, collapse it if I don't need it. But these are the stages basically which operations I can do. Here I can also add a field. By adding a field, I will be able to create a calculator field over here. When to stay, when to add, what are the preferred stages, discuss when cover the call field part. But just I am making you familiar with the U, that how this thing looks also. There's a part stage, and when I click on add stage, I get only 3 options available. Filter, group by the management, here the leader. We are only getting 3 options only for the stage. But when we will also cover the DDs, we will get more options to it. Why? Because there is a limitation for creating beads, and the DDs beads, as we discussed, it was it. The main purpose is to import the data into the Prism and U. DDS function is to do the transformations and blending of the data. Definitely. The purpose of the derived data is to blend the data and transform the data. You will have more stages to do the transformation. But on the other hand, BDS will have very limited 3 stages to it. Also cover this in detail regarding the stages. First of all, I will just cover the ways of creating the BDS. When we do the edit of it, we can also rename it. Rename this one. Again, rename this 23 as upload. Just for your understanding, here if you see, if I change the name of this upload, the API name won't change. You remember we discussed that API name won't change. It will say static. It will say as it is. I remember that, yes. I will be able to change the name, but not the API name. Also, the dataset name cannot be duplicate. Let's say, if there's a name with this similar thing, I won't be able to name it in that way. And also the API name will always have an underscore. It won't have any space. On the other hand, I can have underscore over here. Also, the API cannot have special characters, just / something that. Generally, there is no need of changing the API name. If we generally take the dataset name as an API name, but in some cases, if it's required, then we should have the knowledge about it. And then we get done. This is the part, and once we do the working, we have to save our work. Let's say if I didn't save my work and then new tab, I'm opening this again. Let's see, I save my work. Over here, I've changed the file name and I have saved it. And here it last refreshes 5 minutes ago. I have to check that when it is last refresh. Here I'm seeing the older file name, which was 5 minutes ago. In order to do that, I will refresh it. Otherwise, I won't see the changes. Here, when I refresh, I will see the changes. When we add a field, first of all, we won't add in a pass stage or import stage. We will create a stage over here and add it. But let's say when you add a thing, it will add a column. Let me close this one. Here you can see a new field has been added as a column. Row is a date. Data can be 5, 10, 15, can be anything. Be able to add a column only in that case. We will discuss this when we create the 12th field. Otherwise, you'll confuse it. But basically, when we add a field, we will be getting a column out of it. And that column, I can rename the column and I can type formula and draft the calculate the field. Let me copy this name for a reference and close this one. I'll give leave because we don't want to save these changes. We don't want this additional column over here. I don't want to save that. If we will save it, then it will stay. If we won't save, then it won't happen. Then go to data catalog. When you go to data catalog, I will create SFTP from SFTP. Here it is. It is a demo tenant. That's why it is coming to not use for all three of them. But I will be able to use it anyhow. Do not use as in because FTP, we don't have the functionality that discuss. When we go to this create base dataset from SFTP, I'll click on it. I will be asked for a file name, as I explained you. That in SFTP what happens is there is a cloud folder in which it will look for a file. Let's say the file. The full name would be the address of the folder. That will be down. Here is just the file name. Here is the SFTP address. Address will be here directly. Let's say here the file name is worker underscore basic underscore data.csv. It might be a PGP file. There's no any compulsion that it's a CSV. It can be a P. It's an encryption file. It will be encrypted and be mentioning the means. Here we will mention the encryption that decrypt using what? Decryption can be done based upon different scenarios. This thing will be provided by the file provider, whoever provides us with the file. Either they can provide us without encryption, that is literally in CSV format. But let's say they're encrypting it. By what he then encrypted it? They will provide us that we will use it to decrypt it. Give the file name for the first over here. Then can be an also pattern as, let's see if I enter something into bracket. It will remain static or it will change. It won't consider those things. Let's say here I am getting file daily worker basic data. I can mention in bracket here. In that, the file name will be there, a space here. It will only look for these things. And it will not look for this bracket one. It will pick the daily file only. Latest daily file. Basically, it won't check the things between this particular format. Let's say, for now I have to remote and show you. Then we go to SFTP. Here the SFTP address will be the exact website of this. Just any website, let me show a website. If we go to any website, just let's say Google.com. And I click on it, it will give me heps colon for slashes. In SFPIT will be svip colon or slash and let's say speep. Then Workday come. This is just a sample one. It's not compulsory. Basically this should be. This is the format basically. The which I want to show here, which is popping up that SFP contain to have this particular format. It may be not be an address, but it might be also IP address as that 122.1 that it can. But the main thing which should be there is that SFTP colon forward slash. Let's say considering that we have this in this format that 3D1 4D1 and here we have directory, we will give forward slash. It's just here. If I open it, I will show you. Let's say if I'm going into downloads, let me see by going in some random file. Let's say I went to the stamp and all and I click on it. Here as I click on it here, you can see that in C there is a inetpub and under that it is under temp. I am getting this app pools file correct. This is the address of it. The website can be the website name basically. Signifies where it very should look and this the directory mentioned exit address of it. Let me go to downloads as and here downloads. Let's say I want to access a file. Let's say I want to access a file as worker data, I will need to go to downloads and the downloads. I will give worker data basically its address that I need to go into this thing to access the particular thing. Here it can be that download slash, I'd say there's a folder. If there's a folder, there's no folder, but again mention that raw files and forest. Here what I would do it. We'll go to the SFTP address first of all. It will reach to the address and at home page. Home page it, if it has a directory as downloads, it will go to downloads. Go to raw files. And under raw files, it will look for this file exactly and use temp file. Temp file is what allows the file to overwritten only when it is finished. Uploading to external site. Avoid the external system from attempting to read a file before it has been uploaded file. Here what it allows the file. Does it mean that when you accessing this file, it's the copy of it? And then you have to save it on the file. That is on the folder, that is on the STP address. Before you finish, because if you stop in the middle and don't save, it's not going to be saved at all. Is that exact? When someone puts the file, it's putting the file and picking up the file. If someone is putting the file and we are getting the files from there, it will be cut paste. The person has cut paste the file at that particular location and we are also doing a cut paste from there. But this option enables us that it will copy the file. Already the original file will be there and be only getting a copy of it in this particular extract. Once we do it, a copy file will be uploaded. This is a reference to keep the main file, which was sent for the record purpose. Then we go to options. This is the things which are not a compulsory field. This might be provided by the vendor or the person who is sending the file. Authentication method. Username or password or SSH authentication. Authentication is basically for if you want to log in with your own credential. If you have some credential, you can mention it over here. It will look for it user ready and all. SS or key pair and username and password. Generally, username and passwords are widely used. Username and password will be in SFTP. SFTP is also a website. In that website, get an user ID that can be in email terms. But mostly it's a numeric format. At 4, 5, 6, 7 or alphanumeric, it's a basically username and password. It will mention the username over here and password over here. Let me enter a temporarily. User ID. Once I enter the user ID, I will need to enter a password. By using this username and password, when it will go to the particular website, what it will do is it will look for that file at that particular location, but it will definitely need an authentication to enter it, because the main purpose is to have a secure FTP to secure file transfer protocol. Randomly someone can enter this address and then look for this file, but this provides an extra layer of security to it. To that folder, it will try to log in it and it will enter it via a password. For now, I have entered 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a password of it and here delete after retrieval. Here the file, the utilities are there, the data after retrieval. Decompress it, decrypt is here. We saw that by ceph, we can get the file 1 DB compressed and 10 D uncompressed. If the file is uncompressed, then no issue. But if it is compressed, we need to decompress it. That I can mention that again perform certain tasks. Delete after retrieval means it won't keep a copy at the receiving end. It will copy paste only. Then decrypting. Using the decrypting using only we are getting 3 options. 4 options over here, PGP key. This PGP keys are nothing, just a decryption, but by which key it should be doing it. Basically, we have a particular certification to, it means its validity from, and it is coded. Let's say, if there is a word with the name of ABC, then the decryption key might be different. Let's say ABC might be considered as 00, B might be considered as 01, and C might be considered as 10. That's a way of coding the things that no one is able to. Let's say someone gets a PGP anyhow. The file is encrypted. Encrypted files, if they get it, they won't understand the data. Why? Because it is encrypted in another way. In order to understand, they need to decrypt it via the key PGP key, and only they will be able to decrypt it. The person who is providing the file, they will be only providing us the one. We only just need to enter that decrypting key over here. Once we do it, it will automatically decrypt it. Once it sends it to the system. Now environment restriction. Environment restriction is similar to the one which you use in the integration as in which this FTP should work in which tenant. Let's say I am getting a file and I'm working on it. Let's say currently I have this setup in production only and not in implementation, tenant and sandbox. But let's say in production it migrates to sandbox. Now what will happen? Sandbox and production both will look for a file and it will create an issue. Let's say production, if it production is taking it's looking for a file and picking it from there and walking it. That's fine, but let's say before production sandbox, look for a file and the file disappears from there and production. There won't be any file to process it. It will impact the live data. In that case, when we build it, put a restriction that this particular setup should work only in the production tenant. If we are setting up this single production, but let's say we are working in implementation tenant, then mention that this setup should work in implementation tenant only. When it migrates. Related to the fraud, it shouldn't work. You can choose more than one. For example, if I use a production in the sandbox, because let's just say first I want to test something and then I want to use it. I want to see if it's working in the sandbox and I want to move forward with this. It's good to have two options, and I also have questions for a decompress, because how do if the file is compressed or not? If I choose decompress and the file is not compressed, will it spoil something or just skip it all? First question, I will answer for the decompress. That for the decompress, when someone sends you the file, you basically agree with them in the fed document, functional design document, or maybe a requirement document. In that they agree first of all that how do you want to receive a file, then you will mention SFP, then they will mention that what are the SFP addresses are there that for which you want to receive the file. Mention the SFP address, that this for this SFP address I want to receive the file. Then they will also mention that what will the format, what will the format of file, whether it will be csv.bxt or what, then how they will encrypt it to compress it or not. All these things will be already pre-discussed between you and the person who is sending you the site. And it will remain the static going. It will remain the same. Process means the way of the file will remain the same going forward to it. Got. Let's say you and the person who is sending the file, you agreed that the file is not that big. We won't be compressing it. Then the future loads. Till you change anything, you will get the uncompressed file only, because they don't do any compression. But let's say going ahead after 6 months or 1 year, they think that the file load is becoming bigger and now it has a need of compressing it. Then definitely you can come over here and change it again as per the discussion. Makes sense? And just in your experience, does it happen that somebody wants to send you a file and it's not supported? Supported by WordAid, because I understand everything from there. Microsoft Excel files, this is all going to be supported. What about more open source things, OpenOffice? The case when the file format is not supported, there's a list of it. I think I will mention it, or maybe I'm not mentioning, I will mention it over here. There's a list of files which are supported by Prism. That can be done, but majorly based upon my experience. People also have understanding. It's based upon their experience that they will only rely on SF50P and CSWings file text file. Because these are the formats which actually contains the data with very low storage and which no other format can do. That Excel cannot also do that. Let's say I am getting the data in Excel. I can save the data into a CSV format. The way is that, let me show you if you want to see an example of it. A lot of CSV data are actually being used for our Excel, I think. Yes, CSV format will work for both. Let's say if I have data in CSV format, also it will be used in Excel by importing it. And I will mention that this is a comma separated file. Then Excel will automatically assign it. But let's say I have a data in a format, which is in tabular format in Excel. How will I be able to do it? Just let me give one example. Are you able to see the Excel? Or I think that screen is not shared. I still see your presentation. I don't see Excel. Yet be. Yes, I'm just sharing it. I haven't shared it. This is an AMP ID. Over here, I mentioned it. And here worker name will be there. And here I think I will give first name. I will make a simple one just to illustrate. I will not make a big query of it. MP ID is, let's say, L1 Tiv Morgan and 2 Logan Mill 1003. There is a and last time me and this will a typing some random name. Now we have this. File in an access format. Once I open that particular file, that file will be in CSV format. Let me show you that as now it can be opened in the notepad even. Yes, correct. The file which I opened, here let me show you to share. Here when I see this file here you can see I have got this particular output. I created this in Excel, but I can save it in the format. By that I can do this working. There is no issue in it at all. Basically, if you have an Excel format also, we can agree and change it and save it into the CSV format. Excel will automatically convert it into the CSV because we need to save as any particular format. And the same data which is in Excel, it will contain more load. Why? Because Excel, the format of Excel, is designed in a way to contain the formulas, but CSV file doesn't contain the formula because Excel needs to. It needs to manage the file format as that. Let's say if it's an employee, it will store its file form. It's a data format that this is a numeric. If it's text, if it's a date, but CSV doesn't need to save it. Technically, CSV file will be lighter than text. They will save place. There was space. I think this file got refreshed. The page got refreshed. Worker data. Then we can. I will just randomly type it because the page was refreshed. It's FTP. Here file processed. I'm just giving a random directory and entering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 and I coming to your next question is regarding that. Are we able to give multiple? Trent as yes, in my experience, what we do is for integration as for Prism. I work with both the cases. We generally get limitation to implementation and sandbox and give a temp file over here that use a temp file and don't give for production because we are doing a testing and there are high probability that this is not enabled for production. But once we move to the production, we will then change the restriction, move to production and then change it. Definitely we can give the multiple ones. But at a time, try not to give 3 of them together. But let's say go from implementation, then in the sandbox together and production separately at a time. That is basically from the functional lead. Nothing much, there is no hard rule. We can give for 3 of them as, but this is the practice which has been followed. And when I give it, we'll look for a file. But because the password doesn't match, but because we haven't given any particular criteria, it won't work and it won't go ahead. It's saying that you have given this FTP. Create dataset retrieval. It wants to retrieve the data. And what's the run frequency? Run now or run once in future. Daily frequency, weekly frequency. And give run now and give. Once we do it, it will run and it will fetch the file. And it will ask all the other details. That what is the dataset name? Let's say we mention the dataset. As here's FTP and here the API name will automatically take it. Here I will get option for replace and append. Replace as in, let's say I have 3 worker data available and 1 into 3. In replace, it will completely replace the data and is the new data available in that file. But append, let's say that 3 worker data is available. It will keep that 3 worker data and will append pen 4 them 5 minus 6. In case if there is a duplicate value, let's say the current file also has 1 employee ID worker and the new file also has 1 worker. It will keep both the records because we are appending it and not replacing it. It depends on what are the data needs and based upon that we will be doing it. But certainly both are equally used. There is no particular preference. I would suggest it's basically completely purely on the need. Here also the write-up is mentioned that what replace will do and what append will do. Mention is append and give and you're done. Now, when I give the done, it will do the process and will update the data set in it. Now all the look will be the same. The starting process was different, but if I FTP data change data set activities, connection, thank you. Basically, it will take time because it is fetching the file to fill it into this one. But because there is no file currently available, because we entered the address incorrectly. Because of that, it won't look for a file in that particular location. It won't create a base data set. In order to create a base data set, it will require the data in advance. Got. Table is exactly opposite. In table, you need to create a table first. You create a structure of the table, that what are the kind of fields are to be expected and all. And later you will ingest the data. But to create a BDS, you need to first of all put the data into the base data set. And after that, only the base data set will be created. But post that, the thing which we did we follow, all the steps will run now. And giving the replace and append. All this thing will remain separate for upload and CFP. But post that once it is created, then the UV will remain the same when I go to read data set. And I go to edit, it will look the same and all the operations will be also similar. That's the beginning of the process, that the source file is different and because of that it will be separate. Any questions still here, or shall I go with the next? Business dataset type. No, I just have more clarification because I remember when I asked you about the truncate options. When you told me about this, I was wondering if it's truncate only representation. Place or adapt. Now I see you have options without. Yes, they will. The error will come that the file size is too big to process. During the uploading only get the error that the file size is too big, and regarding the options which are saying that truncated, those are not visible. That is not visible because those options are from the tables. Tables will have 4 to 5 options. It will have truncate, truncate and insert, insert, upsert, and there's another option as there are 4 to 5 options into tables. But for the data set, we only have 2 options. That is to replace and append, but it's actually the same. Truncate is removing the existing data and then pasting it. Means truncate and insert, and the replace is also the same, which is replacing it. But replace and append works only for the data set. And for tables, the truncate and insert, insert and upsert. These options are available for the tables. If you want to see those options, I will just show you. That I do want to, we can look at that, but I also do want to change the course. If you want to go with the data sets first, it seems our tables are more complicated. I believe that's the reason why we first go to the data set. It's exactly basically. Once you understand the base data set and derived data set, after that you will be able to understand the role of table more. That's why I'm going for the data set first, because it's comparatively, both easy and base dataset and derived data sets are almost similar, but their functions are separate. That's why I went with the data set first. All we covered. Creation of base dataset via FTP and file. Now we will go from the custom report. When we go to the custom report, it will ask us that create plus dataset retrieval. It needs to retrieve the data. when we upload a file, we just need to select a file to upload it, but in SFTP and create. Creating a base dataset using a custom report will be asked for the retrieval because it needs to retrieve the data from somewhere. Here a custom report. We'll select the custom report which we have already created. I'll use an existing custom report which I have created, which in the past, this one TWO data, and I will use the worker data instead. Much easy. Worker data. Let me open it in a new tab to show you. Here, as mentioned in the presentation, as we are only able to use it with the advanced type of reports, are not the other type of reports of the custom reboot. Here report type is advanced. And in order to see the report over here, I need to go to advanced and I need to enable the option. Enable as web service and also enable for Prism. These two options are mandatory in order to see it. If these options are not enabled, you won't be able to see it. First enable these options and after enabling, you will be able to search it over here. If there are any prompts, the prompts will come over here. Prompts may be true because when we do a recurring process, let's say I want a report which base data set to be refreshed. I create a base data set from a report that it will take the data from the report and I want that it updates. Every weekly, every time it won't. I mean, ask me Merson, enter the criteria. If there are any existing report criteria in it available, I need to either enter a value or mention that it's do not prom at the runtime. If I need to do not promote the runtime, or if I want to give any specific, let's say, here for this particular report, there are 3 built-in prompts. I mean, it can be all there can be built in prompts as or prompts which we have already, which we create for the report. Let's say here the built-in prompts are there, which are means compulsory. We can't remove it. Contingent worker type, employee type, a worker type. But for my requirement, I don't have any default value. I want all of them. I want contingent worker, employee worker type, everything. I mentioned do not prompt, but let's say I have given prompt something. Then I need to mention those prompts over here. Let's say worker type equals to employee. Or if there's an employee type. Employee type should be intern or full-time employee. Makes sense when it runs on an automatic basis. On a regular frequency, I don't need to enter the report criteria every time. It will. That takes from the configuration which we did. Here also the environment restriction is there that work for this particular report in the particular environment. Here the reason is very different. Sometimes what happens is the report might not be there in a particular tenant and this might start getting an error. Just to give an example, let's say I created a base dataset and for the base dataset, I created a dedicated report in the implementation tenant. But when I migrate the base dataset to prod, the report is not migrated, but the configuration will go with the base dataset. And it will show error whenever it will fetch the report. Each dataset will have only one report and it will update it. Here the main reason for environment is a question regarding the environment restriction, or is it something separate? No, I was wondering, but that's depend on the case. But if you, for example, are receiving a report every week and you want to work on the new data coming, you create new data sets for each of them, maybe even closing the data set from the last week because it's not important now. And you open another data set for a new report that come in, you just do this that way. But I was wondering, with the report that are changing frequently every day, and you're trying to maybe a bad example, because for example, When I audit system, I do some audits every day. For example, there are new team member hired every day. Basically, when we give a prompt will work as a filter criteria. Let's say you want to run. Let's say you created a prompt by your own. To filter it out, let's say 5 employees only by mentioning their employee IDs or by their name. If you mention that, and it will only take those and it won't give the blanks. Let's say the organization contains lakhs of employees, but you entered only 5 employees, then only the 5 employees worker. Data will only come, there won't be blank for rest 95,000. That makes sense. But what if one of them is missing the higher data, one of the information he's missing one data in one column? Will the prompt allow to go through that? Or you think of an error, you missing information for that column. Got it, got it. In Prism, when we have a blank data, it will come as null. It will come as null. It won't show blank. It's a difference between Workday and Prism. Workday, what does this? It will give a blank. Let's say if I got hired on a particular location, and let's say I have first name and last name. I don't have a middle name to enter, then middle name will be blank for me in Workday. And in Prism, middle name will be null for me. It won't give me an error, but it will show that null. That's it. If you are, for example, Infos, let's just say you have a recruiter and he's I don't know, providing you data of the new team members, and he doesn't always know about some people, exact date of hire, because he assumes he's going to be starting next week. But they're not sure if it's going to be Monday or Tuesday, and he's uploading this data, but you want to enforce on him that he has to provide the hire date. If you, for example, don't know the hire date, don't provide this info, wait until you have it. Then provide it. Is it a way to force the prompt to be, hey, you're not allowed to leave this field empty on the null? Yes, in that case. Basically, in report, only remove the prompt over here. The prompt will ask in the base dataset when we configure in the report. And if we don't configure hire date over here, it won't come in this. And let's say ID is coming over here. Let's say had it is coming and I don't know the hide it. See over here in condition or in any of this from. I haven't given any default value. And I'll keep this blank. That, let's say hide it is there in the prompt. For example, one option is to remove the it from the prompt. But let's say I want to keep it anyhow, I can keep it over here. But I don't need to mention a default value. I can keep it blank and I can give mention. Do not. A prompt at the runtime. It will keep it as a blank, no matter if the worker is in a specific period or not. Let's say if I mention a period, let's say from January to October. In that case, no matter if he has blank hide it, if he doesn't fall into that, the period in that date range, then also it will come. Yes. Basically, just to answer your question, if we have a hire date over here and we don't know, if we are not sure what the hire date will be, it might be blank or it might be future hire date, as it might also change. In that case, I have an option to not to fill any default value over here and just give do not promote the runtime. Once I do it, I won't give any filter over here and it will run as it is. And to test it, what you can do is you can create your report on your own. As what you can do is you can create a custom report and let me know if you face still any issue. We will have a session on it. As create a report, mention a hire date, and hire date will keep this default values blank. We'll give do not prompt runtime. Then run this report. And here we don't have to enter any criteria then for hide it, because we already mentioned that do not prompt at the runtime. Here, that's why we're not getting the prompt. And we are not getting the prompt. And then the work is done for us. We don't enforce prompt. We don't ask them to provide everything at once. Exactly. And for Prism, we create a dedicated report generally. We don't use any report which are used by any of the people. When we create a report for Prism as a data source, we know that if someone will make the changes in this report, it might impact the base data set which is fetching the data. That's why when we create a report, we mention that Prism, Sake and the name. That's a naming convention, that Prism. It will be this. I will just type it over here, Prism. SAC, this is a Prism source. This report DV worker data. If someone is seeing this report, he will come to understanding that this is a peer ISM source. It is used in Prism as a source report and not to use it. Still, this is a Workday suggested nomenclature. It is not necessary every organization use it, but this is the standard nomenclature which are suggested by Workday to use it. That's why no one can change it. But let's say someone is doing any changes over here in this report, then definitely they can do the modification. The base data set, that let's say currently I have only field. Let's say I have only 13 fields, but I want to add our 14 fields is not an issue. This thing won't get harmed. I just need to go at the stage and add that additional field. There is no any issue with it. We can definitely update the custom report and those changes will reflect in this base data set. Basically, your scenario is that when you actually work on it, you will be able to understand how it will be. You can give it a try today by creating a report based upon your scenario which you're explaining, and if you face an issue, we can cover it up in the session. Basically, is the data set is taking the report data, but it doesn't have to take all the fields because the report might be pretty large, but you only create a data set from the chosen parts, and then if you want to change it, you want to add more columns. Maybe using the same source in the form of the report, you can still do it to the data set. Can you come again? For example, imagine you have a data set with 5 columns. And you create this data set from the report that has 10 columns. And you do it on purpose because you don't use all data from the report, all 10 columns. You only use the 5. But then you realize you actually need to add more from the repo that has a 10 columns. You want to use 7 in your data mode. Can you edit that? It could use more of these columns. I got it. Yes, we can do it. We can also reduce and increase as, let's say I will give you 3 scenarios for it. First scenario is that we have 5 columns available, 5 fields available in the report, and there's a requirement to add 5 more. Now the total file will be 10. Already the base data set is available, but we are adding the 5 fields. And then we need to just go to edit base data set, and we need to enable those fields that it will be visible for, because by default it will be hidden. It will be hidden. It's not hidden as in you will get to see that it's hidden. We are not able to see it. You can enable those fields and we will be able to see it. And you can also purposely hide some fields. Let's say you build a report which has 50 fields, but for your specific requirement, you don't want to process that much of data at a time. You just want 10 fields out of 50. You can also hide those things for temporary processing purpose, that going forward it won't run a whole report, 50 reports at a time. I think your question got answered. I understand now. Yes, we will try once. See, when we discuss on the stage, that configuration is being done on the stage level. When do a stage level, there's a stage called manage field. In manage field, we have an option to view or hide the field which we want. If you want that, I don't want any particular field, then I can hide it. And if I want it, I can unhide it. It's good that these questions are actually being impacted on practical scenarios. It's good that we are covering this up. You are coming up with questions. That is the thing. First of all, the main priority is to understand the fundamentals. When you understand the fundamentals, then you can come up with different ways of the things. Just you came up with this filter, this prompting. You can write. And if not, then you can discuss it with me. I am not able to do it. Is there anything? Or do we have any restriction from Prism Mentor to it? And we can then walk it out together. Not an issue for that. All thank you. I will just finish this thing if you have 5 minutes. Let's do it. When you mention all the prompts, it will ask us the frequency. When do you want to run it? We can mention daily, weekly depending on. Let's say we want a daily recurrence. We can keep it as, for now I will mention as run now only to get it for once in a day. I need to mention the details. That here that what type, what is the data, set name, and mention report and APN we get automatically and give a replace and give done. Here when we do this, the report, this one, on this file is ready. I will go to view and we're able to see all the day fields which are available. In the custom, both 13 columns are there, 13 fields are there in this one. I will be only getting limited one. Here I can see if the data is not there, fields are 15, it will take time to refresh. Because it is sensing from this one, we have got the data, you can see employees are. Their workers are at 41 workers that have pooled. This is the data which will be visible. And to see the number of columns, be able to see from detail view. These are all the fields which we have got. Workers field, the legal name, I see that. Legal first name, middle name, last name, hire date. Hire date, we can see 25 to 50 unique hire dates are there. And 0 node. That's important because legal middle name, as you see, almost no one has a middle name. 920 no. Almost nobody has a middle name. Correct. That will show in this way, see nodes. Yes, I see that, I'm sure. That's why I gave you example of middle name, because I know that most of the people generally don't prefer to give the middle name. That's why I gave you this example, because had it, almost everyone will have it. There might be a chance that someone might not have for the future head case. But this is a classic example of null. This is how the null we deal with, and then there's a UPL load ID and UPL load timestamp that we'll discuss. It's a time taking concept, not time, but it will take 10 minutes. I will explain in the next session. But now you can see all the things are same going forward. By whatever method we created, initial steps are different for a file. Uploading a file, for getting a file via FTP, or creating a base dataset via custom report, all things will give us the same output in the end, this one. And the modification going ahead will be also same. Is that the initial step which is different for the creation of that base dataset? And also this SFTP is also ready. If you want to have a look at it, see. But here we won't have any data available. Let me open it. Because the custom report was available, we got the data for this one. Because custom report was already there for the data, but for when it looked for a file, there's no data. Because it's not created from the custom report. Exactly. Custom report data source was available. The data was there. Here no data was there, it failed. It's good that you got the tenant access. I think you can practice on it now more. You can cover it up at least this further. You can cover the topics by creating a base dataset. These 3 types. Create base dataset by file as if you can custom report. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.